Good morning, baseball fans, and welcome back to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Do not be fooled by that fancy name. It's just me and some friends talking about baseball cards. And it is Tuesday morning. I am back from the Strongsville Show. I drove out Friday morning. I got to go to the show for about an hour on Friday afternoon. Did a full grind, 9:30 to 5 on Saturday, and then I did about an hour on Sunday. So drove back Sunday night straight through, 7 hours. Strongsville, Ohio is about maybe 10 miles south of Cleveland. And straight run back to New York. Got in Sunday night. Spent yesterday recovering. And here we are today with my Strongsville video. So let me bring up just a picture of the floor here. So I took this on Sunday, so the show on Saturday was a lot more crowded. But as you can see, it's not a really, really big show. It's not a 300 table show. I think it's like 150 tables. But it was 99% vintage. Couple of modern tables that I didn't really look at, but for the most part, pretty much all vintage. The dealers were a combination of many of the same gentlemen that I see at shows in the East Coast. Howie Chasser's there, Bill Chappell's there, Stan Locke is there. Some gentlemen whose names I don't know, but there were also, though, and this was the really good part for me, was that there were local Ohio dealers and some dealers from a little further west of Ohio. So I got to choose from dealers that I'd never purchased from before, and that ended up being quite successful for me, as we'll get to later on. But the exciting part of this event for me was the opportunity. Well, before we get to that, it's funny because I made a video of Philly, which a couple months ago, which was by far the most watched and liked and commented on video on this entire channel, where I had two 52 mantles. So I got to stop by. This guy had four of them lined up, which is kind of cool. And also, as you can see, he's got some other cards there, like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. And a card that is high on my Grail list is the 1954 Red Heart Mickey Mantle. So I'm taking a picture of this guy, and I hear from next to him, hey, why don't you take a picture of my stuff? And of course, it was a joke because it was Scott Russell, who I've purchased from many, many times. From Collector Connection, I think I got his card here. Scott Russell is the main guy at Collector Connection. I know he's got some workers for him, but he's got a pre-war auction coming up in about a week and a half. And I saw a preview of some of that stuff, and it's really quite amazing. And I'll link below to Scott's website. But as I said, the most important thing for me at this event was the connection with people that I've known online, I've known through YouTube, people who've appeared on my show. And of course, here's two selfies. One on the right is, of course, Leighton Sheldon, who was somebody who I consider kind of a mentor to me in the hobby. He's of course a dealer and owns Vintage Breaks and Just Collect, and he has his own show and appears on other people's shows, and quite a figure in the hobby, but also quite a really good guy. And I text him sometimes for things, and he texts me back, and we've hung out socially multiple times. So really nice to see Leighton walking the floor there, not as a dealer, but as a buyer. And of course, on the left, very special, was to meet finally for the first time Orlando from a collector's dream. And I think if you're a hobby guy, you're a vintage YouTube watcher, you of course know who Orlando is, and you invariably like Orlando because he's a nice gentleman who has a fantastic collection, but he's really humble and nice and sweet and friendly. And he agreed to do a show for me when my channel had about 100 subscribers. But meeting him in person was even better. And I can tell you that Orlando spent every time I saw him, he was talking about someone else's pickups. He was happy for the other people. He spent a lot of time bringing people together, and just a complete positive guy. And there's always the talk of hobby positivity. Well, Orlando is the real deal, the real hobby positivity. A person who cares more about other people in many respects, than his own pickups, which of course were awesome. And he has a video that I will link to below where he made some incredibly smart deals to be able to pick up some just absolute monster cards. One of which I had the opportunity to hold in my hand, and it was just striking how well. And I talked to Orlando when he was originally on my show about how he has such a good eye for cards, and I can tell you that the Ty Cobb card that he bought is pure evidence of that. I mean, it's just a beautiful card, and so happy for him because like I said, he's just so happy for other people when they pick up things. And it wasn't just Orlando. Obviously, there were other people that I hung out with. Had a great lunch with Chris from Everyday Cards and Don from the show and me. Incredibly nice to meet both of those young men, and also met Craig from Midlife Cards, who you'll see on a photo here coming up. Also, Darren from Return to Collecting, and of course the Chris from Missouri, who put together the get together on Friday night, which was just so much fun. And you'll see pictures and videos from that event on some other channels. And it was I can't say that videos and photos really capture how much fun it was to just talk cards with people who were like-minded, and all just solid individuals. And it was just a great evening, a great event. And of course, I spent a good amount of time talking to John Keating, who is somebody who I relate to both on cards and on music. So John and I actually spent a lot of time talking about music. So big part of the Strongsville Show was, of course, the people. And I think there were about 50 different YouTubers there. Couldn't get cards of them all. But the gentleman on the left is known as Mike Petty. Mike Petty is a Hall of Fame commenter. He doesn't have his own channel, but he's well known. And he's appeared, of course, as a guest on many people's shows. That's a selfie of Mike and I in the parking lot outside of the Best Western, where we all stayed right before he left to fly back to California. But on the right is a card that he bought. It's a Yingling's Babe Ruth card that he bought from the awesome dealer Ash. And I'll show you a picture of that deal going down next. This was kind of the deal of the day, or the deal of the weekend, honestly. So what's going on here, I don't know the gentleman with the Purdue shirt. I think that is Jason behind him. That, of course, with the camera, and the title is Greg from Midlife Cards. And the shirt behind him, that's Darren from Return to Collecting. That what's going on here is that Mike Petty has negotiated with Ash. He's about to buy a card. He's trying to figure out how to pay for it. And Darren is trying to help him set up his PayPal because he can't find the checks that he brought. Well, he ultimately did find the check, and he wrote the check for a pretty good amount of money for that Babe Ruth card. And that was the deal of like I said, the deal of the weekend. And I think it's been referenced in other people's videos. But I mean, this is the kind of thing that we saw at this show. It's a bunch of guys together trying to help out another guy land a big card from a dealer who we love and all respect. So pretty much a personification here of the way the weekend went down. As you can see, this was Saturday afternoon. I'm pretty sure this was before lunch. Yeah, it had to be. So as you can see, it's pretty crowded behind this group. So you tuned in, hopefully, to see what I got, because that hasn't been discussed yet. And this is the money shot. These are almost all purchases. Some of them are not. Some of them are gifts. And there's a couple of things that I didn't put in this. This is, of course, the tacky table from my hotel room. So when I put this up on Twitter on Saturday, I don't know, afternoon or evening after the Saturday event, as you can see in the bottom middle, there's a couple of nice cards there. One is the Hank Aaron double play card, which I should say several people have tried to buy that card from me since I posted this. There are still prices on these, on the top loaders and on the sleeves. I didn't pay most of the sticker prices, but at some points I did. So let's go through, if we can, the cards here. Let me see what my next slide is. Oh, my next slide will cover the big card that I bought. So let's go to me alone. So, like I said, it's a Cleveland show. So one of the good opportunities was to buy items of Cleveland players, and one of the Cleveland players that I've collected pretty strongly and did a show on him with Scott from Reindeer Studios, who I spent some time with and, of course, met for the first time. He's a wonderful guy. Al Rosen is the show that I did with Scott, and of course, I continued to collect Al Rosen. The first thing I saw was this, which is it is the 1952 Dixie lids of Al Rosen. 52 Dixie lids are kind of hard to find, generally speaking. I've never seen this before. Walked up to it. I think it was $23. So I said to the dealer, "20? You good on 20 on this?" Yeah. So for a $20 bill, I picked up this amazing rare item that I've never seen before of a player that I collect, and it has the tab on it, which is cool. It is messed up a little bit here and there. This, it's obviously shows some aging. It hasn't been cleaned. I can tell you that much. And I'm going to be submitting this to SGC. It'll get a 1, maybe a 1.5, but that doesn't matter. I want it preserved in a holder for me to put in my Al Rosen collection, which is down here somewhere. You can't really see it. The other Rosen item I picked up was after I bought that and talked to the dealer. Said, "I'm a Rosen collector. This is great." He went back to his his display cases behind him, not in the the glass cases in front of him, and said, "Look, I have this too." So it's the Star Decals. I'm not sure what the year is on this, but it's 53, maybe 52, 53, 54. It's in that range. Star Decals, Al Rosen. I think it was priced at 43. Actually, no, the price is still on it. 45. So I got it for 40. I did. The funny part is I saw Scott and Sammy Thunder, who was there, of course, who I hung out with before, but great to see Sammy again. They were coming towards where I was after I had purchased the Dixie lids, and I said to Scott, I said, "I just got this. This is kind of a big deal." And I did offer this to let Scott buy this, but he said, "You found it, so you take it." So this was a great pickup for me, the Star Decals Al Rosen, which of course I'd never seen before. If you recall, in the Campanella show that I did with Stacy, he had the Star Decals of Campanella in blue, which he said I don't think there's like 2 of them graded ever. So I'm not going to grade this. I don't think I need to. Just going to put this in the Rosen display. That particular dealer, who unfortunately his name I didn't get, he's a local Cleveland guy. He also had very, very far left, in fact, the furthest back and the furthest left table of the entire show, he had some items, the double plays. So this is a Hank Aaron double play. It does have a crease right here, and it has a kind of a really kind of dinged up corner here, and it's showing some wear. But the price was right. And I don't have this card. I once almost bought this card, and I think a SGC 7 for like $1,000 or something, but I did not buy it. I just didn't feel like spending that much money on a card. But this will, of course, become part of the Hank Aaron collection. But I bundled that with this. This is a sweet cap pin from, I think it's 1910 to 12, Jack Quinn, who I now have enough items to do a show on Jack Quinn. So this was cool. I put these two together, got a deal on both of them, and came away from this particular dealer feeling really good about the show. But there's a lot more to come. So a few other people I should mention. One is of Matt from The Card Story, who we did the Hank Aaron show together. And off camera, he said to me, "Hey, I have an extra of the bazooka, the 66, 67 bazooka. I'm going to send it to you as a thanks." And I said, "Oh, all right, great." So Matt confessed that he's not great with mail. So he brought cards to the show to give to me. To give. I'm like, come on, man. Let me, what do I owe you for this? But no. Just wanted to give me stuff. And I can't say how great it was to meet and hang out with Matt, who, if you see him on his channel, very laid back guy, very sort of matter of fact, emanates kind of a nice, just, approachable kind of personality. But in real life, same guy. Talk to him about anything. He's just very matter of fact, very much like, just a nice guy, generally speaking. So he did, in fact, give me the 66, 67 Hank Aaron bazooka, which is a wonderful card. I mean, I think that's a great portrait of Hank Aaron, and I don't have it. It's now going into my Hank Aaron collection forever, and extremely thankful to Matt, but that wasn't it. he gave me a couple other things, which honestly, Matt and I also did a show on the Four Collectors show about Warren Spahn that was hosted by Theo. Met Theo on Friday night, another great guy whose personality comes out on his videos, and he's the same guy in real life. Down to earth, regular guy, funny, just a great guy to great hangout. In fact, I hung out with him for quite a bit. Just, he's probably a guy in his late 20s, maybe early 30s, and I'm 60. But we related on many levels. So Matt gave me this, which is my only Venezuela card. It is the 1962 Warren Spahn in a PSA holder. I think Matt has another one, but the Venezuela cards, the story is that they were on thin paper. Most of them were put into binders or books and taped in or glued in. So this one is in similar condition to most Venezuela cards, but it's my only Venezuela card. But that's not it. This guy also gave me a 1964 Topps pin of Warren Spahn. So these are added to my Spahn collection, of course, and will stay in the collection forever, as will Matt, as a person who I have tremendous appreciation for. Not just for giving me gifts, but for just being a good guy. So the other guy I met is Arie from thecarddeal.com. Arie and I have been talking about this deal for 6 1953 Bowman cards. So Arie gave me the cards at the Friday night get-together, and I keep trying to pay him money. I will eventually pay him money, but just gave me the cards and said, "Yeah, pay me later when we get around to it." So these are 6 cards of 53 Bowman. As you know, as I've mentioned many times, have the complete set, now upgrading to all slabs. So it's Bobby Shantz, Billy Lowe's, of course, the great Larry Doby, Ken Ravensburger, Connie Ryan, and Warren Hacker. So those will be added to my nice little pickup of cards that will be going to my 53 Bowman slab collection. So let's see. Went through a lot of slabbed boxes, which you don't see at regular shows, but at a vintage show, there's slabs that you would want in boxes. So there was a dealer who I saw. He had about, maybe 10 boxes filled with slabs, a little bit of junk wax, but a lot of vintage. And this is the stack I got from him. Of course, they were all 20% off. And then there was a deal even after that. So I ended up getting some of these slabs for a fraction of what I thought I would pay if I bought them, let's say, online or on eBay, including this one, this great 71 action shot. As you know, I'm building this 52 cards in the 1971 top set are action photos. And I'm collecting them all in high-grade slabs. This is the Chris Short. It's one of, I believe, 3 or 4 pictures that were taken at Connie Mack Stadium in Philadelphia. You can see the ball coming out of Short's hands. And, of course, behind him, runner on second base is the one and only Pete Rose. I have tried to buy this card online. It's popular because of the existence of Pete Rose in the background. But I paid, I believe, for this PSA 7 after all the discounts and stuff, $20. On eBay, it's twice that. So nice pickup at the show. Finished Furillo. I've not really been aggressive in getting his Dodger cards when he goes to LA, but here's one that I didn't have. It's my only Furillo card that I didn't have from his flagship run, and it was very cheap. And it's an 8OC, and I think this was about $20 also. Couldn't pass it up. Continuing in the Dodger collection, Johnny Padres in a 5. 1955 Padres, of course, is the year that he was the MVP of the World Series, and the Dodgers finally broke through and won. Padres pitching a shutout in Game 7. So wonderful card to have. Also in the range of about $20. We talked about Granny Hamner in my video of recent acquisitions. 1952 Bowman. A set I'm building, not necessarily in slabs, but when I find slabs of this quality, centering, picture, color, everything on this, and I think this was also about $20. Picked that one up. Not another 1952 Hall of Famer Robin Roberts. It's a 3, but it's a nice 3. In fact, I think it's probably undergraded. There's no schmutz on the back. Corners are a little soft, but centering is decent, a little bit off. But for a 3, really nice presentation. So that was also, I think, maybe $25. So these two cards. Why will you buy a Whammy Douglas card and a Ferris Fain card? Well, Ferris Fain won 2 batting titles, so he's a legitimate player. And of course, it's a 52 tops in a 3. It's about the correct grade. It's not over or undergraded, but I think it was, I don't know, also maybe $20. Whammy was probably 10. The reason I bought these 2 cards is because I have this collection going. It's not really something I'm aggressively pursuing, but whenever I find cards that are in this book, The Great American Baseball Card Flipping, Trading, and Bubblegum Book, Brendan C. Boyd and Fred C. Harris. Both Mr. Boyd and Mr. Harris were from the Boston area, so there's a lot of Boston stuff in this book. But it's not your standard baseball card book. But I got a copy of this, not this particular example, but I got a copy of this book in 1978 when I was about 15 years old, and I read it backwards and forwards so many times. The cover came off, the pages were falling apart. I read it so often because it's hilarious. They have just a rundown of baseball cards in general, but then they go through all different kinds of cards. Let me see, here we go. So, and then they do stories of the cards, and some of it's funny and some of it's sad, but it's really, really well written. Brendan Boyd is no longer with us. Fred C. Harris, however, is still with us and is still funny as heck, and he has a Twitter account that I follow. Unfortunately, he doesn't follow me, but I hope to change that someday. Anyway, so I collect cards from this book, and because I read it so many times, the cards are literally burned into my brain. So there is the 52 Ferris Fain from this book, and there, of course, is Whammy Douglas. Kind of funny picture, but Douglas himself is a funny character. And he pops up again. Dave Baldwin, who was a pitcher for the Senators and for the Brewers, he has a pilot's card in the 1970 set. Dave Baldwin became a PhD and lived an extraordinarily interesting life, and he's still around. And Dave Baldwin signs very frequently. So I sent to Dave Baldwin his book and 70 tops, and he sent me back very beautifully signed signature on his book. And I'll show that at some point, and on the card, and he sent me extra cards. But in Dave Baldwin's book about his life, which includes quite a bit of minor league play, Whammy Douglas is the coach and bus driver of one of his minor league teams. And Whammy was apparently a very entertaining figure. So not only is this card in Fred Harris's book, but it's also in Dave Baldwin's book. So had to pick it up for, I don't know, $10 or something. So great Whammy Douglas. Bill Chappell was there. Bill Chappell was very popular amongst the YouTube people because he had an amazing amount of cards. I know that some YouTubers were buying cards from him, high-end cards. My thing with Bill Chappell is I go through his boxes, and the boxes of the pre-war stuff had kind of been picked through, I guess, maybe at previous shows, and there wasn't much in there that I was interested in, so I didn't buy any of those. He did have boxes on the far right of his display with cards from the 50s and 60s, which I went through, and I found this. As you know, I'm building the 51 Burke Ross, and I do not have. This is Kurt Simmons, the pitcher from the Phillies. Quite a successful pitcher for quite a number of years. Kurt Simmons is either still alive or recently passed. If he did, he lived into his 90s. But Kurt Simmons, 51 Burke Ross, is a card that I've had a little bit of a problem finding. And so I picked this one up. It's a nice example. As you can see, it's pretty well centered. No schmutz on the back, no issues. And I think this was 15 I spent on it. I didn't even try to negotiate. 15 for this. It's 15 for grading it's going to be. And for $30, I'm going to end up with a card that I've seen for much more than $30 on eBay. I'm guessing this is like a 5 or a 6, the way that SGC grades the Burke Ross cards. Let's go through a few more things here. Actually, there's quite a few more. There was a dealer there I'd never seen before who had an entire binder filled with non-coupon Z-Nut cards. So I went through. Z-Nuts are kind of hard for me to really pick out cards that I like because it's a minor league set. So you see mostly guys you've never heard of. I have the Frank Crissetti Z-Nut card. It's it's a minor league card, so it's a pre-rookie card. And this one, this is Gabby Street. Gabby Street was a catcher for the Senators early in Walter Johnson's career, and there's pictures of Street and Johnson together. He wasn't a great catcher. I think he was more of a fielding catcher than a hitter. In fact, his hitting numbers are quite anemic. But Street stuck around in the game for quite a number of years, including time as a manager of, I believe it was the Cardinals. And after he got bumped from the Cardinals, he went into the Pacific Coast League and managed, what's the name of this team? The Mission Reds. He was the Mission Reds manager for 2 seasons. I believe it was 33 and 34. So this card, which is from that time frame, is Gabby Street managing the Mission Reds. So I figured to pick this up. It wasn't cheap. It was $60. I think I paid $55 for it, but it was marked at $60. So I'm going to get this graded. It'll be a 1 because it doesn't have the tag on the bottom. And it's a little beat up, but a pretty cool, rare issue of a player who has some historical relevance because of his connection to Walter Johnson. More Slab Pickups. Bought these in a bundle, got a discount from a dealer who had about 2 or 3 boxes of vintage slabs. Again, the 1971 Topps action set. This is Gibson in a 5. I know I said I wanted high grades. My Ryan's a 5. I think my Tory's a 5. This one cost me, I don't know, $35 or something. So nice to have this iconic Bob Gibson stalking on the mound in Shea Stadium card for in a nice. It's a good 5 too. It's not undergraded. I'm sorry, it might be undergraded. It's not overgraded. Same dealer. Card number 1 in the 1976 set. Another Hank Aaron. Had a nice little Hank Aaron run at this show. This is going to be part of a show that I do that I'm not going to tell anybody what the subject is because I don't want somebody taking the idea from me. Anyway, Hank Aaron, 1976 Topps number 1. I think that cost me about $15 maybe. And then another 52 Bowman. This is the Bob Friend rookie card. It's in a 5 too. Also, yeah. Again, so nice little take home from this gentleman. All 3 cards were $85. So yeah, not too bad. Also I forgot this. Rocket Rick, who I will link below. Super guy. Also bought a Ty Cobb at the show, which I was happy to hold in my hands for a little bit. Rick was Orlando's roommate, and if you watch Orlando's video, you'll find out that Rick drove Orlando to the airport to leave the Strongsville show at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's a friend. Somebody will drive you to the airport. And the airport was not 5 minutes away. It was probably about 15 minutes away. So Rick proving himself to be quite a mensch. And honestly, happy to meet him. And he gave out envelopes filled with Hall of Famers and, of course, his own personal card. So shout out to Rick, who I will link below. Check out his account. Okay, so only a few. Oh, Jesus, I'm on with 30 minutes on this video. I got a lot of stuff, so there's only a few more things to go through. Building the 1939 play ball set of Yankees only. There are 12 of them. I did not come home with the DiMaggio. I should say that there were 2 of them at the show. One, quality-wise, was not great, and the price was a little high. I wouldn't have bought it anyway. Ash had one at a price that was a little high, but I know he negotiates and he's like extremely fair. And I know what number I probably could have gotten it for. But at that point, I had already spent enough money that was out of my range. So I didn't get the DiMaggio. I will. It's not a particularly hard card to find, the 39 DiMaggio. And if that version of Ashes is still around for the National or the Philly show in September, probably going to nail it. So anyway, I did pick up 3 raw. They're probably going to grade in the 3 to 4 range. This is Monty Pearson, Babe Dahlgren, and Selkirk. George Selkirk, of course. This is Selkirk. This is Dahlgren, and this is Monty Pearson. Monty Pearson was a pitcher who's not very well known, but had some really solid years in the 30s. So that, I believe, brings me up to 9 of the 12. Also tried to buy the Bill Dickey. Matt from the Card Story helped me with this a little bit, but we could not find a acceptable copy. There was a very overgraded old label PSA, 4, which at this point would probably be like a 2 for the 4 price, and I didn't even ask to negotiate on it because I didn't really want it. I want like a solid mid-grade of that card, which there was another that was, I think, in the range, but the price was too high, so I didn't end up getting that card, but I will eventually. Did do some small box diving. These are 10 cards from the 1969 set. If you'll notice, they are all Seattle Pilots. Putting together the complete Pilots 69 and 70 round. I already have 70, about half of them autographed. Have some other Pilot cards, but this will become part of my Seattle Pilots show, which eventually will be coming up. There's a particular person I want to invite who is the Seattle Pilots collector in the world, and I'd love to have him on. Where we follow each other on Twitter, so I think that might be able to happen. And then finally, the last one, and I'll show you the. This is the dealer, a local dealer, Rings and Swings. Had remarkably beautiful display boxes that you could see a little bit of that wood on the bottom there. That's part of one of the display boxes. He said his father built the boxes for him, and he keeps getting compliments on them, and he keeps telling his father to make more of them so they can start selling them. But they're beautiful display cases in wood, like a nice sort of tan, natural wood. And so that dealer had a card that I felt like I overpaid for ultimately because I did a mistake. If you're going to buy a card at a show, especially a big card, know your price. And if you don't know the price, step away, go research it, find general comps for it, and then you'll come back with information. The dealer said there's another buyer in this show who came by yesterday who wants to buy this card, and he's coming by today to buy this card, which could have been BS. I don't know. And I'm not moving from this price, period. Okay, so it's the 1953 Topps Willie Mays. It is a high number. It is, of course, Willie Mays. It is his third-year card, and he was not budging on the price. As you can see, there's tape and a tiny little bit of not residue, but a little bit of paper loss there, and there's tape on the top. The back is gorgeous because this was probably taped into an album for decades. I paid up for it. I checked prices. I probably paid up maybe $100, maybe not. Yeah, I felt kind of bad about it after I did the research after I bought the card, which is kind of stupid, honestly, and not a good move by me. Because if you buy the card, stick with it. You got it. Um, and so I felt a little bit about it, but guys, there were guys there. There were YouTube guys there. There were people who knew this, and I would show this card to people. And I would say, and they would be. It was all positive. Like a guy like Orlando would say, "Oh, you got this card. I'm so happy." Matt was the same way, but eventually my disappointment of paying maybe $100 more than I should have faded away, and now I'm extremely happy to have a 1953 Willie Mays, a card that I didn't really go to the show expecting to nail, but happy that I did. Um, and 35 minutes of just me talking about baseball cards. I hope you stayed this long for the Willie Mays. But the next video, I'll try to be a little shorter. But the Strongsville Show was a great experience. As I said, not just the cards, the dealers, the number of vintage options. This was Disneyland for vintage collectors. Honestly, I'm going to go back next year. There's literally no possibility that if I'm physically capable of going, I will go there next year. The people were terrific. The YouTube guys, pretty much positive across the board. Met a lot of guys that I had never met before, whose channels I've watched. Some guys who have watched my channels. There were people who came up to me and said, "Hey, Dan, how you doing?" And it was really very encouraging, and the kind of thing that makes you feel good about the hobby. Yes, look, people spent tons of money. People spent money that I don't have on cards, but I had a good show, had a good run of stuff, bought a lot of things that fit into my collection, and so coming away from it, 99% of the experience was positive. So if you can do that in any world, then you've been successful. So thank you, Strongsville. Thank you to all the YouTubers that were there, the dealers, just the folks. It was a memorable weekend and one that I'm never going to forget. And I hope to relive next year. So next week, next Saturday, we're having the Arie Reynolds show with our old friend Mark Del Franco. Reconfirmed with Mark today. And after that, we're going to have the Jimmy Fox show, then Phil Rizzuto show, and we're also going to have an SGC reveal at some point in that time frame. I think the SGC box is sitting in my office right now. So anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Sorry for the length of this. I'm going on 37 minutes. Sorry about that. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Saturday.